Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner Davis.
Good evening, good evening. How are you, Sister Joella?
Oh, I'm fine, my beloved Sister April. How are you today?
I'm tickled pink because we have the better half of the McQueens here tonight.
Well, you know,
on our community magazine.
Well, you know, it's an honor. It's an honor for you and Edward to allow me to come on because I want to always commend you on what you do and how you all are working together over many years and bringing on guests who are able to impart information that will help our community and beyond. So again, thank you for giving me this opportunity to come in and share. And of course, we are women, and this is March, and this is Women's History Month. Indeed, so Edward has taken the back seat for tonight.
Well, I'm sure that he's somewhere watching, and he's extremely proud to see his queen sitting in the driver's seat. And we're going to share this time tonight. We have a very, very special guest, one of my favorite guests that we've had several times on WCM Live. And again, this is Women's History Month, and we could not complete Women's History Month without having a segment honoring one of our heroes. Heroes in history, just heroes in the civil rights movement, heroes in the emancipation of slaves, all the things. She was all the things. And we're talking about none other than Harriet Tubman. And we have a very special guest with us today who is actually a descendant of Harriet Tubman. And so it is an honor to have her with us. And Sister Joella is going to, of course, introduce her, and then we'll bring her on to have this discussion. But just want to remind our audience that you can engage in the discussion by commenting. You can drop it in the chat on any of our Facebook pages, World Community Magazine, of course, in the network, in Horry County Black United, a number of places where we have this shared across social media. And if you will, take the time to share a link to this video, or actually this live stream. We're live. Right. And yes, we are live. And so share a link to this live stream from our YouTube page, or you can just go to wcmagazine.net and let everybody know that they can tune in and see this wonderful broadcast. So, Sister Joella, you want to tell us a little bit about our special guest before we bring her on?
Well, I am just, so honored and so humbled to have met this lady back in 2019 when she came to Georgetown, South Carolina, for the unveiling of it was called the James Bowley House, who was also a descendant of Harriet Tubman. But when they dedicated that historical marker to the house, she and her husband, Brother Donald, were there. And we just started up a conversation, and she told me more and more about her Aunt Harriet. So over the years, we have done research. I visited Edwin and I have visited the home of Harriet Tubman up in Auburn, New York, and there's still more that we can share. But because of time tonight, I just want to again introduce to you and also introduce to others about her. So without further ado, please bring her on. Okay.
Awesome. And so tonight with us, we have Mrs. Ernestine Tina Martin Wyatt, the great, great, great grandniece of Harriet Tubman. Miss Tina, welcome back.
Well, thank you, April, and thank you, Joella, for having me on. I always love to talk about Aunt Harriet, so I know you'll keep me on track, so I don't go off in so many directions of which I can go off. There's so much to talk about and to tell about her. It's we could have hours and hours and hours of conversation.
Mm-hmm. So I understand that tonight's broadcast, of course, will be focused on how your Aunt Harriet taught the newly freed slaves survival skills. But of course, we want to highlight the fact that in June of 2024, the Harriet Tubman Monument was unveiled in Beaufort. And since that time, additional research has been done revealing her entrepreneurial skills during the Civil War. So I'm sure that's the catalyst for this discussion tonight, especially as we focus on the fact that it's so important for individuals and communities to understand how important entrepreneurship is to the survival of their communities. We're always pushing for small business development, especially in the Black community. And of course, Mother Tubman was way ahead of her time because she did that for newly freed slaves. And you're going to share with us some of the things that you learned about your aunt and all of the things that she imparted to her people. So get us started, Miss Tina, tonight. This is going to be really good.
Okay. Well, Aunt Harriet was a self-liberator. And so she always, it was always said about her by other people that, that she could not be free. And as she walked about, so let's say she went down to the Civil War during that time, she still had a bounty on her head. But the part about all of that is, how did she get there? And why did she go there? I mean, she was already free, and she had freed her family and friends and like that. But when the Civil War came up, she knew that her job that God had for her, the purpose, which she always said was to free her people, hadn't been done. So, you know, she was always, when the war came up, you know, she had a desire to be a part of that. But the governor of Massachusetts, Governor John Andrews, you know, they're up in New England. They, you know, Aunt Harriet frequent that area a lot because they were friends, all of them. And I don't think he knew her, though. He knew of her, but all her friends that were there, he knew of her reputation and how she was on the Underground Railroad, and how many she freed and things like that. How many trips? 7 people, 13 trips, and gave a lot more people direction and the use of her contacts in her network to be able to get to freedom. So, and what she's always said is that, you know, she was a conductor on the Underground Railroad, and her train never went off the tracks, and she never lost a passenger. So, you know, she was a good strategizer. She was a good planner, and she knew how to hide in plain sight. So all those things put her in great stead of being a operator, and to be able to gather intelligence during the Civil War. So, you know, he desired her to be a part and work for the Union in the Civil War. Although women could not be a formal part of the military, you know, he required, and so he said to her that he wanted her to go down and be a part, be a spy, be a scout, and if she wasn't doing anything else, to be able to do whatever else was necessary.
Right.
So for her, that was nursing and all the other things that she was already doing as a part of her daily life.
Tina, would you, and this is why it's so interesting what you're saying, and because she was able to do all of these things, I'm going to ask to have Sister April to play that first clip about how they looked at her, and you know why she was so important down there in Beaufort at that time. So, Sister April, if you could play that first clip with Park Ranger Chris Farr, him telling about what she did when she was down there, and perhaps you can kind of give us some more information as to what took place with her. All right.
Okay.
We can't hear you, Sister April.
I'm sorry, which clip would you like me to cue up?
The 2022 clip with the park ranger.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Starting in the spring of 1862, just about everybody who's anybody is part of the abolitionist societies in the Northeast. Either they come here to Beaufort County to be a part of the Port Royal experiment, or they're sending people down here. One of the most famous people who comes here to Beaufort County was Harriet Tubman. She comes here wanting to work actually as a nurse. And she works as a nurse at a number of the hospitals. We know that she likely worked at the hospital on here just off of Craven Street, known as the Castle, which was a hospital for Black soldiers in the summer of 1863, most famously the men of the 54th Massachusetts. We also know that she was likely working as a nurse for a little while in the hospital that's kind of across the street from that was known simply as the Contraband Hospital. To help fund some of her operations, we know that she was operating sort of a laundry and not quite a restaurant, but think sort of like an 1863 version of a food truck. She's almost operating kind of like a pie stand type thing somewhere here in downtown Beaufort. There's a good chance that may have been situated somewhere here around our present day visitor center, as our visitor center is located in the old town square where those types of activities would have been taking place, although we don't know exactly where this would have been. So she's helping fund some of her nursing activities through doing things like this. Much of what we know about Tubman's activities here in the South Carolina Low Country is a lot of it sort of rumor and speculation. Because she was so well known, she didn't want to make a big deal of being down here. She certainly didn't want the Confederates to know that Harriet Tubman is in Beaufort, because she'd become a target. And so she doesn't leave behind like a lot of accounts. So much of what we catch about her comes from sort of other sources. For example, in the fall of 1862, when Thomas Wentworth Higginson arrives here to take command of the 1st South Carolina Volunteers at Camp Saxton, in one of his letters home, he describes coming ashore at Camp Saxton at the dock, and he's telling his wife, he says, "Oh my gosh, and Harriet Tubman was there to meet me. You remember her." And so it's a good illustration of how she still is connected to the pre-Civil War abolitionist communities in the Northeast. The few sort of firsthand accounts we have of Tubman comes from a June 1863 court-martial of a white soldier in which she testifies in this court-martial, which in and of itself is sort of a fascinating story of sort of race and policing in sort of the wartime South here. But she's testifying against a white soldier in the Union Army, and as part of the deposition, they simply ask her, "Who are you and where do you stay?" And she says, "I'm staying at the Savon House across from the Arsenal." So somewhere near here, possibly the antebellum house that's located next door to Tabernacle Baptist Church. Some of the folks associated with Tabernacle believe that may have been the Savon House. We don't know that 100%. It's a good chance that might have been it. It wasn't long before Harriet Tubman began to sort of do Harriet Tubman things. She decided that, maybe this nursing stuff wasn't all she wanted to do. She has experience sort of navigating, operating independently. And so starting in 1863, part of the Union Army's operation here is literally to go inland and liberate people for the purposes of undermining the Confederate war effort, right? If you start going in and liberating enslaved people, well, the Confederate Army is going to have to divert resources here to sort of defend that, to stop it from happening. But also, too, if you start liberating people, that's people you can recruit into the Army. Well, Harriet Tubman starts in this capacity, starts operating as a scout, scouting the waterways, particularly between here and Colleton County up on what's called the Combahee River. This comes to a head in June of 1863 when Harriet Tubman participates in what's called the Combahee Raid. Her role in this is sort of up to some debate and speculation, but she's certainly helping to lead, taking an active role in planning. She's the person who scouted out the waterways, kind of telling them, here's where we need to go. They sail up the Combahee River with a detachment of soldiers from the 2nd South Carolina Volunteers, as well as a few other white regiments. They land near what is today called Fields Point, and then today what's called the Harriet Tubman Bridge up along Highway 17. They land there and literally just start liberating people. All total, about 750 or so enslaved people from the rice plantations up on the Combahee River are liberated. Tubman brings them back here to Beaufort. We know that they gather up sort of next to a Baptist church, quite likely Tabernacle Baptist Church, and she supposedly gives a speech trying to convince guys to join the Army. And a lot of these men end up joining the 2nd South Carolina Volunteers. And so Tubman is an important part of sort of not only just the liberation of people here in Beaufort County, helping to facilitate that, but also helping to recruit Black men into the Army who can thus continue that work of emancipation through military action.
So, Tina, are you able to kind of help us to understand it? Because this is what is being taught.
It's so much. I hope I can remember everything. First of all, why did she go down? Which I told you already.
Yeah.
Oh, she didn't just say, "Oh, let me think about maybe I want to go down there and this is what I'll do." Blah 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 blah. No, that's not how it happened. She was asked to go down there, And besides being asked to go down there, she was giving a contact that would meet her there in order to take her into Beaufort. Also, she was once she was there, she was given, well, it started with giving her transport on a government transport, and then to also to be able to, when she went and went to this very specific place, the person that she was supposed to meet, she said she looked at him, he looked at her, and he said, "Oh, you're young enough, you'll do," you know. So her antennas went up. She had a gift of discernment. So she said, she said to herself, "I'm not going anywhere with you." You know, because I mean, the way he said it, you could imagine. What was he going to do? Try to sell her off? You know, so she left and went elsewhere, and then got word, and she was given transport down, and she met up with I think it was Hunter, who then she got all of her information that she would be able to use government transport to go wherever she needed to go. She would also be given what uh, your officers, what they were able to do, which is to go into the commissary. Commissary didn't start until 1825, so it was a very young concept. And the enlisted people could not use the commissary. I think they had to use what they call sutlers. I think that's what it was called, where they would have to get all their goods and everything else. And I think even some of their shoes or whatever else they would need, and they could charge a great fee for that. So Aunt Harriet would go into the commissary, as was her right given to her. But while down there, when she first went in, remember I said with Governor Andrew in his papers, he says, do whatever else is needed when you're not doing what he wanted her to come down there for, what he wanted to use her skills for, which was to get information from the Confederacy and everything around there. So when you're not doing that, then do whatever else was necessary. So when she got down there, what was happening? What was happening right away were soldiers were dying, and they weren't dying necessarily from bullet wounds, but from dysentery and different sicknesses like that. So here we enter into the first, I would say, of her entrepreneurial skills, which she learned from her mother on the Brodus plantation, which was how to make medicines from herbs and things like that. So she was very talented. So I call her, I look at her as a pharmacist, because she knew how to look at what was needed, somebody's illness or sickness, and knew immediately what to give them to help heal them. So she started doing that. And then she was able to do that for a white general that was there. And she healed them with her medicines. And so he gave those instructions to the other people, said, give her whatever she needed in order for her to be able to do that for the enlisted. So that was one thing. Now, when he talks about the one thing, when I listen to how he's saying and what he's saying, it's like, maybe this is what happened, or supposedly this happened, or it might be possible that this happened. But no, there were certain things that we knew did happen. And her things that she did in terms of taking the the freedmen, the newly freed. But let me go back. The Port Royal experiment, what that was all about was you had all these newly freed people that they were expecting to be freed, or that would leave the plantations and come and try to join with the Union soldiers or be kept safe, and they were called contraband. So what are we going to do with all these? Lincoln had that problem. What are we going to do with all these people, once they're free? And they even wanted to set up a colony in Africa. But Aunt Harriet said, I'm not going anywhere. You brought me here now and I'm staying. So what she did was take everything that she knew to be able to free the enslaved, so that she could fight for democracy for this country. She thought it could be a great country if they were to free the enslaved and allow them to fight in right next to the white soldiers. So while doing that, so she was doing the nursing when she first went in, because that's what was needed. And then she had, and you can, if you do the research, they have the names of the scouts. And he's talking about, I don't know about the person that he's talking about that sent a letter to his wife, but I do know about Frederick Douglass's son. He had two sons in the Civil War. And I can't remember which one it was, but I think his wife's name was Amelia, Emily, something like that. And he wrote her a letter. And he said, guess what? Guess who I saw down here? I saw Harriet Tubman, a captain over a gang of scouts. And so what he's documenting right there what she was actively doing and what the scouts were doing, because the scouts were going in and getting information. Now, remember, I said she was a strategizer, she was a planner, and she knew how to implement a plan. I mean, that's what she did on the Underground Railroad all the time. She knew exactly when she had to strike, and she knew how to do that. And so doing that, she was able to get that information. And once that information, and they call that the CIA, they call it intelligence gathering now, which they say they used her as an example of how to do modern day intelligence gathering because of what she did and how she did it. And so you have her doing all of these things. Now, you remember the Combahee, he talked about the Combahee River raid.
Right.
Now, she was in connection with Colonel James Montgomery. And a matter of fact, he was one of the people, they were, all of them were pretty much abolitionists. And he did all those raids and things in Kansas. So once she gathered all this information, analyzed it, planned it, where were these torpedoes or mines along the sides of the river, going up by the plantations? Okay, what are we going to do? Where are they? We have to uncover them. And so that's what was done. And she led the raid. It was her information that was gathered by the scouts that she led. So they were very successful. It was 300 of them, of colored troops, or 300. I think there might have been some white troops in there as well, but I know a lot of them were they were colored troops. and led that raid down that river. And if you ever, the river was very difficult to navigate because it was like a snake. It was real twisty. If you can look at it from above and look down on it, you could see that. So just to clear up what he was saying about the leadership of it, she was the leader of that raid.
Mm-hmm.
And he even told her, he said, he wanted her one. Well, since you're up there, she's on the one, the lead boat, and the other, there was 3 of them. One of them went aground, and then there were 2 left. She was on the lead one, and I think it was called the Adams. I can't remember now. I think it was the Adams, but she led that raid down that river. They took away the power of those mines. They even were able to get off and go into the areas of the plantations and like that to help the freed get on board. But all of them couldn't get on board. There wasn't enough room for them all. And but it was a very successful raid. She said at the time it was 700. I think she said 706.
Mm-hmm. Now, Tina, let me just share this with the audience. And this is from a book by Harriet Tubman by Kate Larson. And you know, you're familiar with her.
Yeah.
But the part that we are going to move into is that once she brought the contrabands or the newly freed back to Beaufort, they had no idea as to how they were going to make a living.
Right.
So in Kate's book, it talks about how she was able to make 50 pies and a great quantity of gingerbread and 2 kegs of root beer. And then she hired some of the contrabands to sell for her through the camps. So she set up what he was saying about this business. He called it a wagon, a food truck. But she was able to take what little she had. And this is what we're trying to instill in our children today, that you can be an entrepreneur and start out with little things, but build up to something much better. And this is what Sister April has had different females on the show talking about how they have set up businesses. And this is why we're just trying to give them an idea that even during a time as the Civil War, and Harriet was able to do these things with what little she had, because as you talked about it, she was given money to go to the commissary, but for some reason, something took place and she just had to she stopped going to the commissary, but she still continued to do.
She was only given $200 during her time.
Sister April, when you join in, you can ask questions. Please, ma'am, let you know, this is what Tina is here to tell us about Aunt Harriet and her entrepreneurship.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think the history is, the history is just so fascinating. And one of I think the things that strike me about the stories that you have about your aunt, the thing that strikes me most is that, you know, we're talking about a time when there was no sophisticated instrumentation or anything that she could use to, you know, test the herbs other than just testing the herbs, meaning, you know, probably finding out what worked by either taking it herself or using it with others. I don't know how she studied to find out what worked and what didn't, but to understand that she could actually create this underground pathway and be able to take care of people along the way and provide intelligence to others, it's amazing. And so, Miss Tina, do you have any idea of how she came about this knowledge? Do you think it was divine intervention? Do you think that she really did, maybe along the way, just as you know, she's kind of moving along the Underground Railroad, she's testing things to see what works and what doesn't, and then it became the culmination of all of these experiences? What do you think? Is there any research that gives you an idea of how she came to know all of this?
Well, some of the things, they brought back from, just passed down from Africa, when they came in. But also, what doctor was going to do anything for them? I mean, they had to learn how to use different things, herbs and all those kinds of things in order to be able to heal. So you do it by trial and error as well. But her mother is the one that taught her. Just like when you're cooking, you try. Okay, this tastes good with this. This doesn't taste good. I'm not going to use that anymore. And the same thing was just continued to be passed down. But with Aunt Harriet, the having just the amount of money, they did not, the troops that were there did not like the idea that she could go into the commissary, first of all. So she stopped going. So she had to have some way to take care of herself. And so what did she do? She baked the pies. She baked the gingerbread. She made the root beer. I mean, that's what she would make at home, wherever she was. So she knew how to do those things from her own upbringing and knew how to use them. But the thing about it, and this is what I'm talking about in terms of using your own knowledge, using what you have, she had a passion for helping people. She had a passion to be able to see what was needed, where it was needed, and how to use it. So doing that, okay, what she did was when the newly freed came in and didn't have any way of making a living, what she did was taught them. I forgot what he called it. But anyway, I'm gonna say that it was more likened to what people are used to seeing now when they hear of pop-ups. So there was no building. So there was just the field where the soldiers were. And so she set up a field kitchen. And I think it was Charlotte Fortin who was the one that talked about that, saying that she was aware of Aunt Harriet doing that one. Now, the other thing that she did, she set up wash houses. Now, she taught them also how to market. She showed them that if you take those things that you already know how to do and use them to make money, then you don't have to rely on anybody else, the government or anyone else. So they set up the field kitchen, and that's what he was talking about, like a food truck or whatever. No, it was like you would liken it more to a pop-up, because a lot of the pop-ups are outside. They put them wherever they can put them, wherever they can get them, not necessarily a truck or anything, or a building or anything like that. So she showed them how to not only think about what is it that you do, what is it you have a passion for, do that. Where do you take it? Where do you market it? You have a captive market right here in front of you, that you can go and take and sell these things. So yes, they sold them for her as well, for her to make money to take care of herself. But she taught them also, this is what you can do to take care of yourself. And so she showed them that. And that's what they began to do. Now, there are other books that talk about the washerwomen, and you'd be amazed. They had a union. Now, who has a union back then? But they were Black women that had set up wash houses and had a union to represent themselves, in doing these. So you know, and that was the first time I ever had heard that, and I was amazed. But you know, she did all of this, and that took her into, and this is the one other thing too, is that he was talking about the Savant House. Well, that was the first testimony out of her mouth, was when that private Johnny Webster was court-martialed because he was peddling army goods, you know, selling them off. And he was supposed to be taking care of all that. And Aunt Harriet would get barrels or big bags of sugar and things like that. So that's how she knew what he was doing. But see, during the wartime, you would think that, okay, she's a Black woman, and what they consider having a bounty on her head, and they're going to take her word. But yeah, they did during wartime. They allowed that. So she testified about that. But then when she was giving her testimony, she told them where she lived. She lived at the Savant House. The Savant House is a double, we call them flats where I'm from in Buffalo. You have a bottom floor, top floor. You have a porch on the bottom, porch on the top. So that's what the Savant House looks like. And it's on Craven Street. And it is right pretty much next door to the Tabernacle Church. The Tabernacle Church is the church where Colonel Montgomery, the newly freed, came down Craven Street singing and celebrating after the raid. Then they went into the church, and she gave a speech. He gave a speech, you know, to celebrate what was done. So he gives the impression that, well, maybe this might have been done, or maybe this might be the house, or, you know, nothing concrete, but it is concrete.
You know, like you say, we can go on, but here's the part that I think everyone would be proud of her. When you talked about her making gingerbread, and remember you and I talked about how the recipe, well, you sent in a recipe, and my beloved sister Veronica Muhammad, because she has a school called the Educational Underground Railroad. We are going to show this cake, and this cake is dedicated to you, Tina, and showing the cookies that she made as well as the cake. And I told Sister April the other day that we're going to have to get some cakes made, because Aunt Harriet would be very, very proud of us and reaching out to our children doing it. So with that being said, time is of the essence. We want to let you know that we got the cake. Okay, can you see it?
That's good.
We picked it up today, and we're going to taste it and let you know about it. Edward is going to take a bite out of it, but in the future, I'm going to get one for Sister April, and when I see you, we're going to have one. And thank you so much for giving us this recipe that we're going to do. I have the plastic over it now.
I'll tell you this. You know, I make I always make my son pound cakes, and I ship them to him.
Wow.
So I'm just letting you know, you don't have to wait.
He's giving you the hint.
You can wrap the cake up and put cardboard around it and just ship it.
Ship it to you. Well, I'll have her to bundle that up for you. But again, we are going to have you back because it's so much more that we want to share about Aunt Harriet. And Sister April has brought up the fact that we need to teach our children about the history. And this is why it's so important. So Sister April, would you show that last video showing how when this, and you were there at the time, Tina, whenever the monument was presented. And unfortunately, Reverend Hodges is no longer with us. So please, please take this, and we love you, and keep doing what you're doing, because I know you have some more information that I'm not going to share right now. But everyone wants now to know about Harriet Ross Tubman. Thank you.
When I served in the General Assembly, I was elected in 2005. And the first piece of legislation that I introduced in 2006 was to name the future bridge over the Combahee River, the Harriet Tubman Bridge. We were honored to dedicate that bridge in October of 2008. In 2016, we decided to build a monument to Harriet Tubman, and we launched it by soliciting funds from the private sector. It took us a little over 7 years, but we were able to unveil this monument in 2024 on June 1st. So we are honored to have Harriet Tubman back in Beaufort.
The Harriet Tubman Memorial that was unveiled here in downtown Beaufort on the grounds of Tabernacle Baptist Church is an incredibly important landmark here for people seeking to understand the history and community around Beaufort.
Well, I'm just excited to be a part of just promoting Harriet Tubman and her journey here in Beaufort, the greatness of this woman. And I'm just a cheerleader for Pastor Kenneth Hodges, who saw the need to really put something up to memorialize her memory. I can remember 2019 when they kicked off with the fundraiser over at Hilton Head, the premiering of Harriet Tubman new movie premiered here. And it was just exciting to be a part of all of that. And now to see the fruition of that work and that tenacity, not giving up against all odds, just like Harriet Tubman didn't give up against all odds.
When we unveiled the monument, a lot of thoughts came back to mind. I mean, all of the struggles that we went through to raise the funds, to educate people about why we were bringing Harriet into Beaufort. It was just an overwhelming experience, just like a burden was lifted, but it looked like it was a new horizon that was also unveiled to us. So we're just excited.
When I arrived here and saw all the people, a sea of people, all colors, diversity, inclusion, everybody was a part of this momentous occasion, and to knowing that we're all part of this great history. And so when the unveiling came, the tears started coming, and they just couldn't stop.
Pretty much every visitor, every tourist, and even every local who's bringing family to town and exploring around is going to pass by that monument. Many of our park ranger walking tours are going to pass by that monument. And, whereas before, many people had no idea of Harriet Tubman's work and contributions during the Civil War. Most people kind of think about Tubman before the war, helping people escape in the middle of the night in, the 1850s. People are walking past that monument and going, wait, what? Harriet Tubman was here. And that monument is inspiring people to learn more.
The Underground Railroad, the Underground Railroad.
Harriet Tubman, A Path to Freedom, was a collaborative learning experience among 4 schools: Beaufort Elementary, Beaufort Middle School, Mossy Oaks Elementary, and Port Royal Elementary. During the experience, the students were empowered to use their talents and their skills to create this amazing play that gave tribute to Harriet Tubman, the meaning that she has in history that we all know, and her relationship to the community, and actually her impact in the nation. The goal of the project was to create an experience that we could present as a gift to the community. And then at the end, the community actually gave back. The students and the staff gave the performance free of charge. It was a gift to the community. And then in kind, the community and the families collected donations, which were contributed to the monument for Harriet Tubman. So this was truly a full circle project.
We're in the process of putting together ranger tours that explore not only Tubman's story here in the downtown district, but also up and down the Combahee River, and basically kind of creating a visitor experience for people to engage with that story and appreciate the fact that this great American did some of her most important work right here in the Lowcountry in our own backyards.
People come to this monument from all over the world. A lot of young people, educators, they come. We hope that it inspires a younger generation to do more research about Harriet Tubman, but also to tell the stories of their families and persons who've made contributions to their lives in the community and even abroad.
Wonderful. Tina, do you have the last? You have the last word.
Well, just that she continued to work to free, to set, to look to other people's needs, to help them, to create hope, to lift them up in whatever way that she could. Even when she went home after the Civil War, she had Harriet fairs that raised money to send it back to her nephew and other people that were still down there, educating, teaching the in the newly freed how to read, to write, and to do other things that she had already started them doing while she was there. So if she can do it, if you have the right mind, the thoughts and the ideas, and she was in a different place, different time, which was more difficult. You can do the same thing now.
Exactly. Ms. Wyatt, there's a question from the audience, and I have to bring this question up. And it's from Cassandra Campbell, who happens to be my cousin, and a new author, by the way. She wrote a book about her father called Broadside, and he's 96 years young and has done some amazing things in Horry County. But she asked, Ms. Wyatt, do you have family members that will continue your work?
Yeah, I have children that, I'm teaching them now and then. And and there are other descendants also that are, doing things and they have children. I don't know how interested they are in continuing her legacy, but I believe that, regardless, it will continue because it's important. God did this for a reason. And she's, she's blowing up so large now because it's what the world needs right now. And so she will, her history, her spirit will go on well into the years until I have no doubt until this earth is no more.
That's right. And we're going to continue it here in the Horry County area and beyond. We have children who we're teaching now about the importance of doing for self, starting your own business. And I think this is so important that you're sharing this with us, because she could not read or write, but you said something the other day. She was intelligent and she knew what she had to do to survive. So again, we thank you for coming on. Yes, ma'am.
I got to add this. What did she look to first? She looked to God first.
That's right. That's right.
So he was the head of her whatever plan she had. He was the director of that plan.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
Incredible. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you.
So, of course, it's always a pleasure to have Miss Ernestine Tina Martin Wyatt on the show with us. And we certainly do count it a blessing that you can come back time and time again to share these stories with us. As Sister Joella mentioned earlier, we're going to continue in our celebration of Women's History Month with the focus on entrepreneurship. We started with a wonderful woman out of the Johnsonville area, Miss Barbara Black. She's doing some amazing things with her nonprofit to serve her community. And then we have a couple of more people lined up over the next couple of weeks as we round out the month. Next week, we'll have Centrell Thompson of the marketing group, and she has something called the Diaper Day Tour that we're going to learn about. But she has 2 organizations that she's launched. And Sister Joella, you're going to love this one as well. At the end of the month, to round out Women's History Month, we have Miss Caprice James, who has an international organization called Stella's Girls. And she's going to talk about her work. Now, she's a product of little old Conway, South Carolina, and her work spans the globe. She's country to country, Africa, Europe, you name it, doing amazing work to mentor young Black girls. But also, she is the granddaughter of Miss Estella Weaver. You remember Miss? Yes, and so she's going to be with us, and that is truly going to be an amazing show to have Caprice on. And she says, April, I would love to do it, to come back and celebrate in my community and just to, talk about all the wonderful things that have happened along the way. And I said, yeah, I'm living vicariously through you. And she's traveling the world doing the things it's her life's work. A young woman, and she's just doing some powerful things. I mean, visiting United Nations, just making sure that everyone is aware of the mentoring power that she has, and also that's needed across the world. And so we are going to round up this month in a really good way, and I'm probably going to add another guest or two along the way if I can. But of course, we certainly do thank you for being with us tonight. And Sister Joella, you did an excellent job. We might need to retire Brother Edward. Maybe we
I learned from you, okay? You and Edward. I try to stay in the background, but when it comes to Aunt Harriet, that touches my heart there.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
Thank you, and thank you, Sister April, for getting all of our guests, because we need for our young people to see heroes and sheroes, okay, even from the past. So may God continue to bless us with what we're doing. Thank you all. Love you all. Good night. God bless you.
Yes, everyone have a great night. Thank you so much.
Great night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook.